I'm good. I'm in Twilight, Somerset at the
Very
moment.
nice. So what made you decide you wanted to do the film? Where did it come about, the creation of the film process?
Well, Shane and his friend Jerry O'Boyle asked me whether I'd be interested. I wasn't totally sure. I was in the middle of another film, and Shane, does come with a reputation. He's not the easiest person many people have found to work with. So I wasn't sure. But then Johnny Depp got involved and called me and said, "Would you do it?" And I thought that he would be a good safety net, really, in terms of making sure the film actually got made. So that's how it came about. But I've known and been fascinated by Shane since the punk days. The earliest interview ever with Shane is something I did in '76. It's in the film. I don't even remember, where he's a bleached punk, really grainy video, blonde hair, very rare look for Shane these days. But so I go way back with him to that time.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of us who are fans of Shane really wanted to know like what he was really like, and if it was all a facade, the way he was acting in public and what we've seen in the media. So who is the real Shane, did you discover in your journey with him?
Well, I think there are many real Shanes, and I tried to lay them out in the film. I think you see different Shanes with different people. He's one Shane with Johnny Depp. He's another Shane with Jerry Adams. He's another Shane with Bobby Gillespie. Poor old Bobby gets it a bit in the throat, like something coming at him. But I think, like every interesting artist, there's an element of self-mythologizing that goes on. I think there's an element of honesty. I think there's an element of deception. I think there's an element of fantastic creativity. It's an explosive mix with Shane MacGowan. And, I was trying to create a portrait that sees him from different angles. And I didn't want to demonize him, didn't want to certainly whitewash him or make it a hagiography of him. I didn't want to canonize him either. So, it's to me, he's just one of the most inspirational people in recent pop music. Certainly, they're not making people like Shane MacGowan anymore, and it's great to have the chance to make a film about someone like that.
Yeah, and it really felt like a love letter to Ireland, and when I got to the end, it almost felt like that's really his intention behind everything he has done in his life and continues to do, is to really pay tribute to Ireland and give it a love letter, because for so long it didn't receive the love from the world that it deserved to.
I think that's very true. I think deep in his soul is this intense sense of Irishness, which is again another contradiction, because he grew up in London, speaks with a London accent, but his heart and soul is definitely Irish. And for me, it was a great, one of the things you do when you make these kind of films is you learn a lot in a very deep, kind of concentrated way about things you didn't necessarily know before. And so it was a journey for me into understanding Irish history and Irish countryside and Irish music, Irish literature on a level I hadn't kind of connected with it before. And that's through his deep links with it. Shane's work is woven through with the great, literature of Ireland, whether it's Joyce or Behan or Flann O'Brien. There's the comedy, there's the tragedy of the Irish story there. And it was great to know a bit more. I think a lot of people in the rest of the world, certainly in England, don't know really the real story about what happened to Ireland. So it was nice to show that through Shane's eyes,
Yeah, it was interesting. Even as a younger man, I'm only 26, and I was shocked, and I felt a little, almost ashamed that I didn't know the veracity of what happened back then. And seeing the signs in London of Irishmen need not apply, and what that meant to the Irish people, and the shame that was inherited from generations to generation, and being shamed for who they were. it was almost like Shane was trying to break the shame cycle that he felt and so many Irish people felt growing up.
I think that's true. I think he was obviously a first generation Irish immigrant kid in London. And what he managed to do, even more than his Irish connections, he managed to give a voice to the London Irish in musical terms that had never really existed before. This distinct voice of this huge community of people who were forced to leave Ireland for economic reasons. Ireland was England's first colony. You have to remember that, before it conquered the world. Well, it conquered Wales and Scotland and then Ireland. And there were Irish slaves sent to the Caribbean, so people don't know this necessarily. And you need that context to understand where Shane's attitude and his music comes from. So I was pleased to show that side of the story and learn that side of the story at the same time myself.
And, just to finish off, because I was really mesmerized by the whole thing, and I really got insight to the man that he was behind the music. What do you hope that people get out of it when they watch your film?
Well, we just talked about, I hope they get a better understanding of England and Ireland. I hope they go out and listen to Shane's music and really get lost in it in the way you can. I hope they think a little bit about the forces at play in terms of someone's creativity, what you need to put yourself through to reach some of the things that Shane reached for. Maybe the dangers in doing that. I think there's a cautionary tale. I think there's a tragedy in the story as well as a triumph. So hopefully all those things come into play. But I wanted to lay out, these different facets of the man so that people made their own mind up about what made him tick. I think if you have too many people saying this is what Shane is, it's much better to really delve deeply into him and let him explain who he is, and then you make your mind up, without being told by so-called pundits or experts or whatever, talking heads. I don't like that kind of filmmaking, so I tried to do something more immersive and poetic, really. But it was also about self-invention and how you need to create myths about yourself to become who you want to be. I mean, it can work on a lot of levels, I think. Hopefully it will make people laugh. That's very important to me.
It is. And I think what I got at the end of it, even though we explored so many facets of who he is, because he isn't one-dimensional, he's multifaceted. But as his sister said, on a soul level, he really is pure and good and full of light, despite darkness within his life. So,
yeah, I hope we caught some of that. I mean, he is a wonderful subject for a film because he does have so many aspects to him.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited. As a whole new generation of people, are really going to get insight to him, and he's going to get a whole new, I think, generation of fans, who see this movie, and I think his music will live on forever, and it is so timeless. So I'm so excited for the world to get to really be a part of this film, as I really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Very nice of you to say that. Well, nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. I'm sure you've got a big day full of interviews, so good luck with it all, and congratulations.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Good talking.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.